We're here today because today is a continental day of action across North America, across Turtle Island, to resist the Security and Prosperity Partnership Agreement. So what is the SPP actually about? The Security and Prosperity Partnership Agreement is not actually a treaty, it's not actually a law, it's a vague dialogue based on so-called shared values that came into effect in 2005 between the US, Mexico, and Canada. We have to be very clear, the fact that it's not a law, the fact that it's not a treaty, means that it's been able to escape all public scrutiny. It's the very reason that the governments are saying that all that this summit is their continuation of business as usual, because they've been able to get away with business as usual for so many years while the SPP has gone on in complete secrecy. Specifically, the SPP will involve the harmonization of 300 areas of regulation, including integration of the military and police forces as part of the war on terror, expansion of temporary worker programs as a means of ensuring low wages, loss of stable unionized jobs with a shift towards more part-time and temporary work, coordination of no-fly lists, biometrics, and border surveillance, including the arming of border guards, expedited resource extraction all across Canada, all across the US, all across Mexico, and particularly in Canada on unceded Indigenous territories, which includes 5-time expansion of oil production at the tar sands in Alberta. The SPP also involves the harmonization of health and environmental regulations to much lower standards than they already are. And it also involves development of a North American alternative to the Kyoto Protocol. So we have to be very clear, the SPP is a NAFTA plus Homeland Security model that we are rejecting. It's the ongoing continuation of capitalist, colonialist, and imperialist policies that the governments have waged against people for centuries. So we are here to reject it, and we remember in 1994, when NAFTA was passed, the Zapatistas declared war against NAFTA, and thousands of people across the continent today are declaring war against the SPP. But I want to tell you folks about what's going down in Montebello right now, because the nature of what is happening in Montebello as we speak in terms of the repression that is going on says a lot about what the SPP itself entails. So I just got off the phone with some comrades and allies who are in Montebello, Quebec. There are 7 people who have currently been arrested already in Montebello. There's approximately 4,000 police who have surrounded the Chateau Fairmont where the ministers are meeting. There are people who got hit by tear gas canisters, despite the fact that there was approximately 20 meters between the police lines and where people were gathered. And the cops were throwing canisters into the crowd. Shame! The police in Montebello include the RCMP, the SQ, the OPP, and also the US military, who have invaded Montebello and are trying to secure the ministers. 3 people were told by the police that they would be shot. They would be shot, not with rubber bullets, but that they would be shot if they attempted to cross the police lines. So clearly what's happening in Montebello, despite the fact that Bush, Harper, and Calderon have been making statements all day that whatever they're saying at Montebello is irrelevant. We know that that can't be the case. What they're saying is extremely relevant. That's why they've decided to fortify themselves behind a 25-kilometer security perimeter and behind 4,000 police officers.
So it's time, folks. We got to get together. We got to stand up. Because this isn't just about trade. We know this is about migration. This is about secure borders. And we're talking about a continental regulation of over 300 areas. So environmental degradation, a superhighway from the north to the south. We're talking about 5-fold development of oil sand productions in Alberta. Do we want this? Do we want a continued environmental degradation? We're talking about the displacement of Indigenous peoples. We're talking about increased poverty. Who is poor in this country? Aboriginal folks, racialized new immigrants. We're talking about an increase in temporary worker programs. What does this mean? This means people working, thousands of people working in the continent of North America who have been forced to go elsewhere from where they grew up to work, to survive, to send money back to their families. And they come to a place like Canada and we exploit them. They take care of our children. They take care, they serve us food. They pick our food out of in agricultural service programs. And they don't have rights. Are we going to stand for it? Are we going to stand for living in a country where people don't have rights as laborers?
Thanks very much. My name's Garth Mullins, and you know, I used to be one of you, the little people. I used to be you, or you, or you, or you. A protester. Some people called me a professional protester, but I never got the scratch. So I went over to the dark side, and they gave me a tie. And now I work for the North American Competitiveness Council, which is me and 30 of my brothers and sisters, but mostly brothers, who are CEOs from the top 30 companies in North America, 10 from Canada, 10 from Mexico, 10 from the United States. Such as the Home Depot, such as Manulife International from Canada, such as GM and Ford, Sunco, RNG, all kinds of, well, the kinds of corporations I would have called bastards, but now I've come to understand that profit maximization isn't all bad. And so I'm here today to speak to you about the SPP. I've been asked to speak, and of course I assumed that it was to speak in favor of the SPP, which is what I'm now going to do. Now, oh no, wait, you haven't heard about it yet. You haven't heard about it yet. The SPP provides a lot of great things for you. Now, economic development is always a good thing. Now, the SPP is about liberalizing trade, and that means making it easier for money, investment, commodities to move back and forth all across the borders. But people, little people like you, and you, and you, and immigrants, and non-white people, that's not such an easy moving across the borders thing. In fact, we want to build the borders a little bit higher to prevent that kind of easy, flexible movement of people across borders. We want to share our security intelligence. We want to have CSIS and the Mexican state and the FBI and the CIA and the National Security Association. We want them all together, all in the same room, all sharing knowledge about the little people, like you, and you, and you. And so I think that's great, all this coming together, because we had the war on terror, we had George Bush, we had patriotism, and we had, 9/11, that was good for me, by the way, real turning point. 9/11, all this war on terror, all this kind of jack up the state, bring more military, and then we had the little trade agenda of the 1990s, the WTO, and then after the FTA, getting sort of left behind. And what to do, because Bush said, you know, it's the homeland before trade. Why not bring homeland security and the multinational corporations together? Why not have the CEO and the army guys in the same room? I mean, that's capitalist imperialism. It's been happening all this time. And once I saw that, once I saw them getting the army guys and the CEOs together, once I saw tanks and McDonald's side by side where they should be, I thought that's the organization for me. That's the organization I want to join. The SPP, right? But I'm troubled, brothers and sisters. I am troubled, and let me tell you why. Because there is resistance. And in the 1990s and up until 9/11, this resistance was very troublesome to my bosses, to the dark lords who pay my grass, my check, right? They were troubled by the hundreds of thousands of you, the little people, who got together into big numbers and came out to stop the WTO in Seattle, the FTA in Quebec City, APEC here in Vancouver. And I said to them, oh my God, if the SPP taps into that tradition of resistance, that same tradition that got 35,000 people out here in these streets the first day of the Iraq War, which, by the way, I quite love now, well, then there's going to be trouble. But I said to them, don't worry about it. Resistance will never be a problem for the SPP as long as all the people don't act in solidarity with each other. As long as Indigenous people don't act in solidarity with refugees and immigrants, as long as gays and lesbians don't act in solidarity with workers, we're safe. But if that solidarity happens, if the mass movements boldly move forward, if the thousands of people come out across the continent today and tomorrow on the Continental Day of Action, and if people use the very confrontational tactics of direct action that shut down some of the most powerful organizations in the world, well, then we're boned.